Hello and welcome to Cereal at Midnight. My name is Heath, and in this episode we're talking about the Christmas classic on 4K. Elf is here on the Ultra HD format from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. How does everything compare to the Blu-ray edition that I think so many of us probably already have? Is it worth an upgrade? We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the video. We're going to talk about the audio. But I want to talk about Elf first. I want to talk about this movie because as I was thinking about how I wanted to approach this review, I just kept thinking about, is there any other movie since Elf, a holiday movie, a Christmas movie, that we love as much as we love Elf? I feel like in a lot of ways this is it is the most recent holiday classic that we have. Is it the last Christmas classic? Because somebody's going to go, Krampus, I love Krampus. But you don't put your kids down in front of Krampus to make Christmas ornaments and eat candy canes and stuff. Krampus is a whole different thing. That's like a foot in horror. Maybe your older kids. Elf is just this innocent, sweet, naive. Is it naive? James Caan represents I'm going to assume you've seen Elf, right? James Caan represents the cynical nature of the burnout on holidays, the practical, more adult side of things. And of course, Buddy the Elf just represents wide-eyed wonder. And wide-eyed wonder wins in this movie. That's what this movie is about, is looking at the part of yourself that is the Grinchy part inside of you and overtaking it with joy and wonder and optimism. And we need that. Don't get me wrong. I think that's a wonderful message. But I don't know a lot of other movies that are saying that these days. I feel like this is the end of an era in a lot of ways. I talk sometimes about how special it was to be a younger film fan in the 90s because we had that new Hollywood thing that was happening. And it even lasted into the early millennium. But then something happened and, out comes Nolan's Batman movies. We just get darker and darker and darker. And I feel like we get further and further from the innocence and just the wonder that this movie purveys. It's got a foot in the Rankin Bass Christmas specials, hope you find your dad. That whole all the animals and the anthropomorphic, the Mr. Narwhal and all that stuff. It's got all of that, but it also has this practical thing going on too. This is the Zooey Deschanel role. Just it's the battle for Christmas that we all fight inside of ourselves. Do we hold on to that childlike wonder, or do we become James Caan? Do we hide it? That's what this movie's about. And I think that's really beautiful. And I can't think of a movie since then, in the almost 20 years since this movie came out. I can't think of anything else that's really done it this well, or even to this degree, really. I feel like we're just in a different place. So Elf remains, maybe in my mind, our last great holiday classic. So a movie with this kind of reputation needs a great 4K release, right? And, well, it's a little bit mixed because this is a clear step up. Here, I'm going to show you guys. We have the new 4K is, it's a great transfer. And they've given us the old, everything's upside down here. This is the new 4K. This is the Blu-ray from 2008, you guys. This is, they've included this. And so if you already have this, you're getting the exact same Blu-ray. And that's got all the special features here. Here's the thing. The Blu-ray is kind of ancient by Blu-ray standards. 2008, those are the early days of Blu-ray. But this has to have been one of the highest selling Blu-rays of all time, right? So I think a lot of us already have this. And it looks good. It's just dated, right? I like the color timing on the Blu-ray. I like the way it looks. I've always liked the way it looks on Blu-ray, even if it's a little soft. Enter the new 4K presentation. And I'm torn because it is a huge step up from the Blu-ray going to the 4K presentation over the Blu-ray. It's night and day as far as sharpness and detail. I'm not seeing a lot of grain, which may owe more to the fact that it's a shot on film in the early 2000s. We're dealing with a whole different a whole different can of worms, ball of wax, a ball of worms and a can of wax, as far as how film looks in the early 2000s. But still, it does look very filmic, but I'm not seeing any grain. So I wonder, Warner Brothers often, with their 4K restorations, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a big one here, they'll do some DNR, what looks like DNR, to kind of smooth everything over. And I think that is definitely the case with this. I notice it seems to be more on releases that they think are going to get general audience. They didn't do it with Casablanca. They didn't do it with A Christmas Story either. So I don't know, but this is just, it's cleaner than I would expect it to be. Now, here's the real controversial thing for me, is that, so this is a super colorful movie, right? The Blu-ray has really beautiful reds, like Santa's costume, Santa's outfit, the elves workshop, like there's the Etch-a-Sketch scene where there's all these stacks of Etch-a-Sketches. Now everything is darker and even more saturated, and those reds are now maroon, and flesh tones throughout most of the movie. It's like everybody's been tanning. They've been self-tan. They've been laying out in tanning booths and stuff. There's a scene specifically where I was like so struck by how dark and brown and orange everything was. I was like, whoa, what? So I pop in the Blu-ray again side by side, and it's James Caan and Mary Steenburgen walking down a hall, and like in the Blu-ray looks normal. They're walking down a hall. On the 4K, it's like it's so brown and orange. It's really off-putting. So the flesh tones here do not really seem always natural. Now, sometimes they do seem natural, but I really feel like they've overdone it a little bit too far into that warm territory. But then other times, you know, it looks really good. So it's really going to come down to personal preference. I personally wish that I could split the difference between the color timing on the Blu-ray and the resolution of the 4K without the, you know, the HDR revisionist color timing. As we talk about sometimes here, the goal of HDR should always be to keep the intentions of the original theatrical presentation. Of course, I saw this in the theater way back in the day. I don't remember theater presentations being as orange as I see some of these 4K presentations, but I guess we have a choice now. We're like, well, we either go teal or we go red and orange. Brown, you know, teal, brown, teal, brown. How about we just go right down the middle? So for me, this is too red, but it's clearly so much sharper than the Blu-ray. So it's not a home run, but it's a big step up. And because you are getting the Blu-ray here as well, if you don't have, this is what I always like to say, if you don't have this movie already, which, first of all, kudos to you. You've like gone out of your way not to own this movie. Because I think this, like at one point they were just sending out free samples of Elf. What's the joke from Wayne's World? He's like, they sent that out. Like Frampton Comes Alive came with free detergent samples in the mail. It's a joke. But like, yeah, like that's how prolific that, like, this movie's everywhere. But if you don't have it, you're really good here because you're getting the Blu-ray and you're getting the 4K. You choose whichever one you want. I should also say the 4K has the commentary with Jon Favreau and the commentary with Will Ferrell. Two different commentaries. Those are on the 4K. None of the other special features are on the 4K. They're all on the Blu-ray. So I'm happy with it, but honestly, it's distractingly orange. So I'm not sure if the 4K is going to be my preferred viewing method going forward, or if I'm just going to still keep watching that Blu-ray. I'm just not sure yet. Because that Blu-ray is so soft. It's from another time. Like this movie, from another time. Guys, what do you think about Elf? I love to have these conversations about the actual movie with you guys. Let's talk about it in the comments below. I'll put a link in the description of this video so you can purchase Elf on 4K, and you'll be supporting Cereal at Midnight and getting something cool for your own collection. Guys, thank you so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.